artists, it's our special glass tree ornament day. I want to start off by going over what you're going to find in your basket. This little container is filled with different colors and shapes of triangles. These are going to be your tree selections. And of course, if you don't find a tree that you love in your little basket, we actually have more to choose from. These are our glass stringers. In this little cup, we have our selection of little tree trunks. In this little cup, it looks kind of like confetti, but it's actually glass frit. In this little cup, you're going to find the little hanging wires. In this little cup that doesn't have the lid on it, and you can see a little pin down in there, is actually going to be for the pins that are inside the glass line paint right here. So when you get started, you will carefully take the little pins out and set them in this little cup. What these pins are doing is they're keeping the paint from unclogging and kind of keeping the flow going. Now speaking of the glass line paint, this is a really special paint because it comes out and it looks kind of like puff paint, but when it fuses in the kiln, it actually turns into glass, so it's pretty awesome. Now it's very important, these pins will stay right here in this cup for the whole class unless you need to unclog your paint. Then you can find the little uncloggers, which are the pins right here. And this is our Elmer's School Glue. All it's going to do is just hold our designs in place while we work today. Now all of our glass is hand cut, meaning it's going to be different shapes and different sizes. So what I would do is I would choose the bigger piece of what you have. I have this kind of clear smoky color and I have a plain clear as well. So I'm just going to work on top of my bigger piece that's just my clear right here. Now you could technically work vertical or horizontal, it's completely up to you. And you might kind of decide that based on the tree that you find that you want to use. Now just like our bigger pieces of glass, our trees are all hand cut, so you'll find some kind of fun, funky shapes in there, and that's a lot of fun to use different types of shapes. If you find little tiny trees, you could also do more than one tree on your glass if you would like to. Now it's very important, if you choose a piece that's slightly bigger or hangs over the edges just slightly, that's okay, but you don't want to have a piece that goes way off the edge of your glass. So I'm putting my smaller piece aside. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put down this little tree that I've decided to use. So just like all glue that we do just a dot, not a lot. So teeny dots of glue, and then I'm going to set it down. Now it might slide around just a little bit, but in a few minutes it'll be stuck really nicely. Now this glue actually burns off in the kiln, but when it burns off, the glass kind of fuses or melts together and becomes one. Trunks are completely optional, so if you have a really big tree and you don't want to do a trunk, you absolutely do not have to. Once again, tiny little dot of glue. Now I'm going to show you an example with the stringers. So these are actually glass stringers, it's real glass, and it acts kind of like an unboiled spaghetti noodle. So you know how you can break those spaghetti noodles nice and easy? The same thing with this glass. You do want to be nice and careful, but you can just take your two hands and do a little snap, and it snaps very easily. Watch out for extra little pieces that might fall. Now to make this stick, I am going to do tiny little lines of glue where I want to put the stringers. If I get a little bit too much glue on there, that is okay. If my stringers go over the edge a little bit, that's okay. You might just have a little paper towel beside you and just kind of test and see how fast that glass line paint is coming out. And then I know maybe how hard I need to squeeze, or just kind of can predict how fast it's going to come out. Now I want to put a little star on top of the tree, obviously completely optional. This is a time where I could use the yellow glass line paint or a different color, of course, but I want to show y'all an example of how to use that frit. So I'm going to put just a little dollop of glue right here. And very, very carefully, we don't want to have any waste with this frit. We want to use every little piece we get out, so I'm just getting a tiny little bit out, and I'm going to sprinkle it on top of that glue. And then any pieces that kind of go out, I'm just going to kind of push back onto that glue. Now, so the glass frit is actually ground up glass. It's rounded, you still need to be careful with it, but it goes on really nicely, and that's going to fuse and melt down in and look kind of like a little confetti star, which is going to be really pretty. I'm going to take my white paint and let me test out how it's going to come out. Nice. So it's a little bit less runny than that orange, and I'm just going to do dots around in my background for some snow. I'm actually going to leave a little space for my initials. Now artists, it's very important, we're doing dots and you can do little lines with the glass line paint, but you don't want to just fill in whole areas with the glass line paint. These are really just for kind of decorations and little dots and little stripes. See, I just tested that yellow and it came out really fast and kind of watery right there. Now that's working a little bit better. It's a good thing that I have this paper towel to test that on. Now, very important, you want to write your initials somewhere on your design. My initials are CC, and so I've got them right there. And that actually came out decently well, a little blobby. I do want to show you, just in case though, you have a little accident, you can always get a little piece of Kleenex and just wipe it off. Oop, I accidentally wiped that little snowflake above. But look, I'll just fix that up too. Easy peasy. Since that yellow's a little runny, I think I am going to try a different color. And if you need help with your initials, you can always raise your hand and one of the adults will try to help you. Now, last but not least for this process, we need to get our little second piece of glass and we need to attach it to the back of our design piece. So you can see I just put a little dot of glue up there. That's not paint, that's glue. I'm getting one of the little hangers right here. So you can see it's like an upside down U. I'm gonna stick it right up here at the top so you can see that the closed edge or closed side is sticking up off the top. Very carefully going to take my design piece and just set it on top. That it's kind of sandwiched in between those two pieces of glass. Now it looks like it's barely hanging on right now, and it kind of is because it's just glue, but once this goes into the kiln and fires, that all melts and fuses together. So it's fine that my two pieces of glass are different sizes. The big thing is we just need to line them up on that top edge. Now your observation sketch. This is actually one of the most important steps because you might need this in order to identify your ornament. So I'm sketching out what looks kind of like the shape of my top piece of glass. I might even kind of sketch in the shape of my bottom piece of glass right here. And then I am going to look so carefully at my design and draw exactly what I see. I want to be able to identify my ornament if my initials come off or if it looks very similar to another artist's work, the same initials. We just need to be able to identify our own. So I'm looking at those stringers exactly where they are and I'm drawing those. Whoop. I'm looking even at those little dots of orange paint exactly where those are. I see I've got 3 right here. And then right here, I've got my little glass frit. I'm even drawing exactly where I'm putting those snowflakes in the background. Now I'm even taking the time and the care to color in, or I could also label with words as well, but I want to identify and label the colors that I'm using somehow. You can see I had a little oops, I was going too fast and I accidentally went over that line with my red. So oops, I labeled that too. So label everything, so especially the dots in the background is just white, so I just labeled that as white. And of course I'm gonna write my name as well as my teacher's name on my little observation sketch, and I'm gonna turn this in. Thanks for watching, I hope y'all had fun, and I know these are gonna turn out beautiful.